they're like, oh my God, so where do I start? You just see,
Yeah.
right? You, so that I also want to get into, where do we start? What is the foundation? I don't feel good. I know me, I'm not going to sit down and do an 8-day fast.
Yeah.
That's too hard. Give me some protocols that I can do that are going to make me feel good and help me detox and get my energy back.
Awesome. Yeah. And I sort of neglected to answer that in my fervor to go deep into the philosophy around detox and toxicity. But yeah, let's ground it in. So the easiest ways for people to start, in my opinion, are through the colon, the skin, and the lymphatic system. Right. So the colon is sort of where all disease begins, right? There's a lot of notions around that from Hippocrates to other healing systems. And a lot of toxicity can be breeding in the colon because we're sitting down all day. We're stressed out, so we're not digesting very well. And also, there's just a lot of processed foods we've been taking. And so, literally, it's not necessarily that someone has 10, 15, 20 pounds of waste in their intestines, although that is possible in some cases, right? That has been documented. But people do have residue. And so colon cleansing to start is a really good way to just start feeling better. You're not adding any nutrition into the body, you're just taking things out. So do you need to go get colonics? Like, do you need to get a series of 6 colonics? No, you don't need to. I find that that is an effective way to start if someone's open to that. And some of the sickest people I've worked with have had relief just from going to a colon hydrotherapist because their body's so toxic that they can't even intake anything. Any supplements, any drugs, any foods cause them to have reactions. They need to lower the toxicity. One of the great supplements that's been invented, let me see if I have it here, is going to be oxy powder, right? This is by Global Healing. And so this is oxygenated magnesium. And you can start with their 6-day colon cleanse, which is just taking like 4 or 5 capsules of this before bed. It's not something that's super intense, right? You'll probably have 3 or 4 or 5 bowel movements the next day. But that's something that can make people feel better right away, especially people who have been dealing with environmental illnesses like mold illness or Lyme disease, or people who are just feeling sluggish, right? How many bowel movements should you be having per day? From my research, it's about 2 to 3, right? Now, some people are going to be overwhelmed by that number because they're not even close to that, which is totally fine. We want to get to at least once per day. In Ayurveda, they say that 1 bowel movement per day is minor constipation. And the healthiest people I see are about 2 to 3 per day. And you should be typically having bowel movements after meals. But for most people starting out, especially people I work with, we need to cheat a little bit by adding in different supplements. So Sarah's got a great supplement, the Accelerated Cellular Detox, which not only is a bowel mover, but it's also a binder, which is kind of what you want. You want a bowel mover and a binder at once to go through the colon, sweep through, get those toxins in the small intestine, large intestine, and exit them from the body. One client story that like never has ceased to amaze me, but just shows the simplicity and also sophistication of detox is I had this 18-month-old girl I was working with at one point. I was seeing her family for a little while, her and her family. And she had a lot of eczema, right? And a lot of allergic reactions to food. And her parents were really on the ball with making sure the mother, number one, was eating super clean so that her breast milk was clean. But the food that they were starting to introduce to the child, they were using organic food and they were, doing, I think, as best as they could to have the best diet for their daughter, who was continuing to be plagued by eczema. And so eventually, and also a little bit of constipation here and there, which would definitely get worse if there were any sort of wrong foods that were introduced. But eventually, I recommended that they introduce like a quarter capsule or half capsule of this oxy powder supplement. And so I recommend that they go off and I don't hear from them again. And then eventually, like 3 months down the line, the father emails me and is like, hey, just by the way, Jack, I forgot to tell you, like after we introduced the oxy powder, the eczema completely cleared up. And it surprised me on the one hand, because I wasn't expecting that result. But from what I've told you and from what I've experienced on my own journey and seen with other clients, this is sort of how the body works. If there's a stressor in the intestines, such as, let's say it's a heavy metal, let's say it's pesticide residues, let's just say it's impacted material on the wall, the lining of the small intestine and the large intestine, that's going to attract bacteria, fungus, parasites, And that will create an immune burden so that now when the child has healthy foods, such as eggs or sweet potatoes, or maybe it's even something like venison if they're starting to eat animal proteins, if there's animal proteins still inside the body that are undigested, because again, the body's not 100% efficient, there's an immune reactivity to that substance. And when you eat the food, such as eggs, which a lot of people would say that's a healthy food, it's a nutritious food, I would say, yes, it is. But if you have egg proteins continually inside your body that have not been removed for years and your immune system is reactive to it, you're going to have an allergic reaction. And this creates the symptoms. So we could do an elimination diet for the rest of our life where we're eating very few foods, or we could cleanse out the body. I had another person reach out to me over social media, and she just on her own did an oxy powder cleanse, and her intolerance to eggs, which had lasted for decades, went away after 1 week. So 2 eggs would make her break out in rashes, and now she can have as many omelets as she wants, and she feels completely fine. And so those are the types of stories that really surprise me. So there's the colon cleansing, then there is detoxing through the skin. So if you can tolerate heat, infrared saunas are great. We know through studies that they'll detox cadmium and arsenic, mercury, aluminum, microplastics, persistent organic pollutants, all those things. They'll increase your circulation. You'll feel better. I mean, I've got the Relax sauna, which is one of those portable saunas, but I get more value out of that than pretty much any sort of modality I do. And I like going to traditional saunas as well, if that's all you have access to, but I would definitely prioritize that, right? Getting a sauna for your family or just prioritizing going to a sauna yourself. 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to feel a lot better. And studies do show that you detoxify very efficiently out of the skin. And then the lymphatic system is just moving and breathing in like creative ways. So for me, yoga is as good a detox as anything, right? If you're into yoga, stretching out the fascia, aligning your breath with your body, and also typically a little bit of sweating you're going to be doing during that is going to be super good for your overall longevity, feeling better. Running, if you're capable of that, you can do inversions. A lot of my people that I work with, they have chronic fatigue. So we got to focus on maybe doing like lymphatic massage, light walking, just getting moving, maybe a little bit of deep breathing. But those are probably the 3 best ways to start before we get into things like the liver and the kidneys.
So before I go on, number one, I have a lot of people that combine the oxy powder because we carry it at Accelerated Health Products with the detox powder together as a combination. Um, Even though the cellular detox powder is a binder, the one mineral that you're able to take it with is magnesium.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to know. So, because I know a lot of people say, I can't just take supplements all day long, and how can I make them it more easily to be introduced into my routine? Number two, sauna. If I get my sauna in the morning, I can take on the world that day. If I don't, I feel off kilter. And what I do love is I actually go to a hot yoga class a few times a week where I'm combining that sauna experience with the yoga and with the breath. I love going to the gym, lifting heavy weights, but when I don't do the yoga and get connected to my breath, I I I get tight, and especially as you're getting older, you get stiffer, but I forget to breathe. Imagine that.
Yeah.
The one thing that we take for granted is our breath. And when you start focusing on it, the stress level comes down and your lymphatic system. Jack, this was something, and I had Raina O'Neill on my podcast a month ago or so, and we talked all about the lymphatic system. After I've learned from her and I actually go to her and get treated by her on a regular basis, my whole body feels so different. And I used to get bloated. I used to get puffy around my belly. And a lot of women will carry this layer around their belly, maybe men too, and they think it's fat. And it's not. It's just that lymphatic tissue or the swelling and the fluid that is building up and being trapped. And that lymphatic system is part of your immune system. It's part of your detoxification, and it's the forgotten system in the body.